I really wanted to have this discussion because oftentimes we hear a lot about the female. When there is an abortion, we hear about the female, and we very rarely hear about, the males, right? We never hear their reaction. We don't hear how they felt, anything like that. And I thought it was pretty important that we kind of have this conversation, and just so you guys can kind of get a glimpse into the male, hi Jordan, the male mindset as it relates and concerns to abortion. So Josh and I, our story of abortion is a little bit unique, right? So it's not your the average story. So let me jump into the story first, and then Josh can kind of jump in and share his portion of it. So for Josh and I, when after we had our daughter, who was now 12, we had to make a decision to basically get an IUD as a form of birth control, because when I am pregnant, I experience this very rare disease in my blood called cholestasis. Most women who are pregnant do endure this. It's a form of itching towards the end of your pregnancy, when your stomach begins to stretch and you begin to itch. Unfortunately for me, because of my condition, when I begin to itch, it happens in my bloodstream. And so it's very rare, but it's an intense itch. And unfortunately, there is no cure for it. There's no medication. There's nothing that you can take that just stops this from happening. And the way it affects your body is, it almost feels like you have ants crawling all over your body constantly. And so I couldn't really wear a lot of clothing. I would have to wear like cotton, 100% cotton clothing. We even weren't silk. Even silk. We weren't even, he couldn't even sleep with me in the bed for my whole pregnancy with our daughter. We honestly, I slept on the floor. He was sleeping in bed because I just could not sleep in the bed. Like, I couldn't sleep. I had to have a certain texture on my skin. So I would make a pallet on the floor, and I would sleep on the floor the entire time that I was pregnant with our daughter, because of this itch. And unfortunately, because you're pregnant, you can't be taking a lot of medication. So there was nothing that I could take that could stop it. You couldn't do the Aveeno oatmeal baths. You couldn't do any of those things that people normally would take when they are experiencing a severe itch. So when we had Janai, my doctor had suggested that we, get an IUD, so that we would not experience, getting pregnant again and having to go through this, because there was just no cure. It was to the point where UConn Medical Center wanted to actually use me as like a research project to research it, because that's how they had never seen a case as bad as mine. And it started when I was about, 6 weeks pregnant with Janai. It was very early on. I was about 6 weeks pregnant, and it lasted my entire pregnancy. Now, this is the thing about it. The moment I gave birth, the moment I delivered, it was gone. The itch was gone, as if it never happened, right? It's the weirdest thing. So when they suggested that we get the IUD, we were in agreement. We said, fine, we'll do it. We just had a baby. We weren't looking to have another baby right away. So that was fine. We ended up, so she was born in 2008. In 2011, I had just started this new position, doing property management, just started the job. It was January. And I had probably been working for about a month. And my body started to feel weird, right? Like, my body started feeling weird. And I looked at Josh and I said, I feel like I'm pregnant. And he was like, you can't be pregnant. Like, you got the IUD, you're not pregnant. And I said, no, I really feel like I'm pregnant. Like, I started feeling the itching in my bloodstream again. And so I knew something was wrong. So we immediately called the doctor. She had us come in that day. They did an ultrasound and a pregnancy test. And sure enough, the test was positive, and the IUD was still in place. So they had to remove the IUD on that day. And we had like a talk, right? I call it the talk, where it was like, so here we are again with cholestasis. It's now started even earlier in your pregnancy. And so, we're going to have to obviously monitor you weekly, and you're going to have to be here in the doctors. And so for me, if you go back to that time, like on my Facebook memories, when it comes up, I remember I was posting prayers like 2-3 times a day because I was like miserable. I was miserable, right? And so, Josh and I were like, this is the promise. This is, God has given us a promise. We wanted to have more kids, but we couldn't. So we're like on an IUD, for God to give us for me to get pregnant again on an IUD, this must be the promise. Like, this is going to be a easy pregnancy. It's not going to be like it was the last time. That was kind of the conversation that we were having back and forth with each other, trying to kind of stay encouraged. And so, we start going through the pregnancy, and I started kind of preparing myself, doing some of the rituals or the things that I had done in the last pregnancy that kind of helped me. It wasn't a cure, it didn't stop the itching, but it made it bearable for me. And so we started doing that, and I was okay. I was very uncomfortable, but I was determined to carry this pregnancy out. Josh and Jameer ended up going on a boys' weekend. So they went on a vacation to Atlanta, just the two of them, and I stayed home. And I remember Josh had his older brother come stay here at the house with me so that somebody would be with me. And I'll never forget, because it was our church's anniversary. And so we had a banquet at Fantasia's, and I went to the banquet, and Josh's brother Caleb was there, but I just felt uncomfortable. Like the whole banquet, I felt uncomfortable. Like my skin felt like it was on fire, and I knew something was really off. So by the time I got home from the banquet, I came home, and I think Caleb had went somewhere, so I was here by myself, and I literally like passed out. Like I just passed out because the itching had gotten so intense. And Caleb ended up coming here, and he found me passed out, and he kind of got me up, got me comfortable. Called Josh. Josh and Jameer ended up, because it was like the Sunday, they were coming home the next day. So they ended up coming home the next day. And I had called my doctor, 911, like, something's not right. I don't know what's going on, but something's not right. And so she got on the phone, and she's like, listen, you guys, at this point, we were about 4 months. I think I was like going on 4.5 months pregnant. I was showing, if you've seen the picture that I posted on my social media a few weeks ago, that was the day of the banquet. That picture was taken at the banquet. So I was showing, like I wasn't, people knew that I was pregnant. The church family knew, our family, everybody knew. And she sat us down that day, and she's like, y'all are going to have to really make a decision, because this is too early in the pregnancy for her blood levels to be like this. The heartbeat of the baby was just abnormal. It was really bad. And so, it was kind of like, it's going to be your life, or it's going to be the life of this baby's. And of course, as a mom, you want to believe that you can save both lives. Like, I'm not going to make that decision. But Josh was like, it's going to be my wife's life, right? We're going to choose my wife. And so we called our parents together, we called our grandparents together, and we had the conversation, because we knew that by him choosing my life, that meant we were terminating the life of our unborn child. And we're Christians, and so we wanted to make sure that we kind of had the blessing of our family, because that's a lot. Essentially you're having an abortion. That's what it was. Our doctor called it a medical termination, and that's kind of what we went with. Like, this is a medical termination. So we went in the next day to Planned Parenthood. Josh and I went in the next day, and they administered a pill. They gave me, I think it was like 2 pills. And they gave me the pills, and they said, you're going to go home You're going to experience some cramping. You might experience a little bit of bleeding. It shouldn't be bad. And then you'll come back the next day and we will finish the process. So if you saw where I posted on my social media earlier this week or yesterday a link to this news article where they were talking about having virtual abortions, like Planned Parenthood is going to start doing virtual abortions, and you can just take this pill and be in your kitchen cooking dinner and having an abortion, and no big deal. You go on, with your life. And I literally was like, when I seen it, I was like, this is a joke. Like, because that was certainly not our experience. So I want to tell y'all what our experience was. And babe, you can jump in. Mm-hmm. I took that pill in the office before we left. We left the Planned Parenthood. Now, mind you, there's people chanting in the parking lot. You're a murderer. You're killing your baby. You're going to hell. All this, right? We're coming out of Planned Parenthood. Josh had pulled the car up. We get in the car. We probably got 5 minutes down the road. Mm-hmm. And about 5 minutes, he had to pull over. I started having the most excruciating pain that I've ever felt in my life. I started throwing up everywhere. Like, I could not stop throwing up. I felt so sick. I mean, it was horrible. We finally get to the point where I was able to ride home and not throw up, right? Without him having to pull over on the side of the highway and me throw up. So we finally get home. We get home. He had called his father. His father met us here. And, he puts me in the bed. Josh puts me in the bed. And when I tell you, it felt like something like a chainsaw was chopping up every single organ in my body. That's how I felt. I sat in the room. I ended up getting on the floor because I was in so much pain. I just could not sit still. I'm sitting on the floor. Josh is holding me, and I am screaming like nobody's business. When I tell you, it was as if somebody was trying to murder me. Like, that's how it felt. It was horrible. And Josh held me in his arms for hours, and I screamed like, God, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I was saying, this is a curse. God is punishing me because we're killing an unborn baby. I remember my father-in-law was in the living room and he was just praying. I could hear him crying out to God in the living room. And we were in the bedroom and we were having the worst time of our life. Never experienced anything like this before. And this had to go on for almost 2 hours?
Oh, yeah, about 2-3 hours.
It went on, and Josh, maybe longer, and he called the doctor, my doctor, to tell her what was going on. And, she had to try to prescribe something else to stop the pain because I was like, I could not breathe. It was horrible. And so finally the pill came through, the medication she gave me, and that ended up putting me to sleep. But I wanted to paint that picture for y'all because I don't know what woman is going to be cooking dinner and having a virtual abortion, and that is it. And you just gonna be cooking dinner, or you just gonna be sitting at your kitchen table with your kids while you're having an abortion by a pill. That is a lie. And I am telling you, and I know because we experienced it, that is a lie. Now, that was day 1 of the abortion. We then had to turn around the next morning and go back to Planned Parenthood because it's not over, right? So I don't know how they're having virtual abortions and you're just taking the pill and that's it and you're done, because I had to then turn around and go back to Planned Parenthood so they could vacuum out the remains of my baby. At this point, Josh was like exhausted. Like, he couldn't even go with me. So my mother-in-law ended up coming and picking me up, and she took me on the second day, where we again had to walk through the chants of the people standing outside, the Christians, yelling that I was a murderer, and that I was going to hell, as we went into the abortion clinic and waited for them to call my name. They gave me another pill, and then when I finally went in, they then proceeded to vacuum the rest of my baby out of me. So I don't know what mom is having a virtual abortion, and that's just it, during social distancing, during a quarantine. Like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of in my life, and it sounds absolutely stupid. And these are my opinions, okay? So so the abortion's over now, right? They're like, okay, Miss Cotten, you're free to go. Right. That's it. You're free to go. So I get up, and my mother-in-law's with me, and I'm shaking. Like, I couldn't even I'm like this, right? Like, my body was in shock, shaking, leaving out of the abortion clinic. And we get back into the car, me and my mother-in-law. And I have to say this. I have to say this because my mother-in-law is a co-pastor. She does not believe in abortion at all. And for her to have had the strength to accompany her daughter-in-law to an abortion clinic and go through this was amazing and remarkable. And I will forever be indebted to her for that, because she brought me home and she stayed the day to make sure I was okay. And it was tough for her. It was very tough because it was going against something she strongly disagreed with, right? But she was supporting us. And so we got home, and the kids came home, right? Not too
Mm-hmm.
long after that, because it's a school
School
day.
day, yeah.
The kids came home, and I was in the bed, and I remember Jameer, our oldest son, coming and getting in the bed, and it was like he knew the baby was gone. Like, he just knew. He laid in that bed with me the whole rest of the day, like the whole night. Our daughter got in the bed, and she's rubbing my stomach, because now she's used to rubbing my stomach because her siblings in there. And I didn't have the heart to tell her that I was no longer pregnant. She was like 3 at the time. I didn't have the heart to tell her that I was no longer pregnant. And then my mind registered that I was going to have these conversations with my kids, because my stomach was going to go down. It wasn't going to keep growing. So I had to have this conversation with what happened to our baby. And so as a family, we all sat down in my in-laws, and my father-in-law's like, what do you want me to tell the church? Like, what are we supposed to tell the church? And we all agreed that we would say that I had a miscarriage, and that was it. And so he made that announcement on that Sunday that I had a miscarriage, and asked for everyone to respect our privacy, and all that stuff. And that was like it. So, Josh, I want to ask you, what were your thoughts, like, having to go with me to the abortion clinic, having to um be there, holding me, seeing me throwing up, seeing me screaming? How did you feel, even making the decision that you made to choose my life over the baby's? What was your mindset through all of that?
Um, I think the first thing for me is yeah, I've always wanted to have like that big family, you know, the multiple kids, like 3, 4 kids, maybe 5 kids running around. That was always my thing. That was my desire. Get married, have kids, bunch of kids, to carry on a Cotten name. So when we had my daughter Janai, um, and I look at a lot of stuff different. Even though my desire was to have a lot of kids, for me to have to watch my wife go through the pain that she had to go through in order for my daughter to get here, it was almost like I don't think I want to have her deal with that pain anymore. It's really, we could sit here and tell you what it was like, but if you didn't live it and wasn't there, it's real hard for you to understand um, let me see, because I want to say it started about when you was like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So 5, 6 months of watching your wife suffer, um, going through this pain that me as a husband couldn't even fix. Um, the itching, her body turning red from all the scratching, because you got to understand it's in the bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like trying to get to it, scratching, but you can't get to it. So it was just a lot, man. So to have to deal with that for me, watching her go through that, it was like, I'm good with the 2 kids. We don't have to, you know, um, try to have more kids. If this is what you're gonna have to go through, so that's why we decided to, um, get on birth control. The option was to have the tubes tied, but I was kind of like, that was a decision for her to make. And then it was almost like, what if,
Right.
what if there's a possibility that we may be able to have kids later, once you get the tubes tied, like I'm guessing like that's it. Um, you would have to do like a reverse,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. So we decided to go with the IUD. And so for me, I'm thinking, we safe. I'm not gonna have to worry about her going through that pain. So when I found out that she was pregnant again, I'm like on the IUD. So at first it was like, okay, this is the miracle baby. This
Mm-hmm.
is something that God, wants for us, and so that's how we treated it. But to watch her again have to go through the suffering and the pain that she was going through, in my mind, I'm like, this ain't what I want. And so my desire to have kids, was basically terminated when I had to make a decision of having kids or uh, sparing my wife life. And so when we had to go through all that, and they made us make the decision, not make us, but when it came down to making that decision of, um, whether we was gonna keep the baby or whether we was gonna keep my wife, for me that was a no brainer. Um, not saying that I'm just want to get rid of the baby, but when it comes down to making a decision like that, that was a huge decision. My wife or the baby. I chose to keep my wife. It's my wife. We already had 2 kids, um, and so I needed my wife and the mother to be around, to raise the family. And it was a real tough decision for me though. I deal with stuff different. My wife talks about everything, um, and she bring everything to the light, and she likes to deal with stuff and put it out there. Where for me, I'm like, yo, I just want to forget about it. It happened, and so let's forget about it and move on. I don't like to bring um, things up, um, that bother me once they happen. I like to kind of just forget about it and move on with life. Is that the best thing to do? Probably not, but that's how I've always dealt with issues growing up. Things happen, sweep it under the rug, and we keep on moving. Um, in a way of not allowing that whatever happened to keep me from progressing in life, and so I kind of just wanted to forget about it, um, and let's just move on with life, for me, and so that's how I dealt with it. I just try to forget it, put it in the back of my mind, almost as if it never happened, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as long as I don't have to remember it, and as long as we don't talk about it, then it could stay back there, and you know, and we move on, because it wasn't the decision that we wanted to make. It wasn't like we just was like, you know what, we just gonna get an abortion. No. The doctor basically gave us a ultimatum. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, either it's gonna be your wife or it's gonna be the baby. Because I told her, just give it to me real, like, and that's what it was. So that's why I made the decision, as the man, um, and as the husband, to keep my wife, and to have the medical termination of the baby. And so
So, so after that point, we begin to try to forge forward with life, right?
Let me
Go ahead.
let me say this too, because I want everybody to understand this part, because I think this is really important. Um, for me, when we had our, she brought it up about how, the my father, who's the pastor, when we had the meeting, um, and he told the church that we had um, the
Miscarriage.
miscarriage. I really think that it was a thing that we agreed to, but I think that at that moment, Bishop was in a place where he was trying to. Uh, it was a. I'm trying to figure out how to say it. It was um, like a covering.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a
Right.
covering over his kids. Um, um, a way to keep the people um, out of the business a little bit, in a way where everybody's not attacking us and coming at us in that way. And I think that he was just really trying to um, cover us in a way where,
Definitely.
you know what I'm saying? It was like
It was definitely a
a
covering.
covering for his kids and stuff like that. So I don't want anybody to think that he was doing that in a way of
Shame, because it
shame.
wasn't.
Exactly. So it wasn't that. I think we was all just trying to. My father always tries to figure out ways to make sure that we're safe,
Right.
and especially in that situation. So I just wanted to clear that air, as far as that. Um, but it was very difficult, um, very difficult, and even now, because she would have been about what, 9?
Mm-hmm.
She's been about 9 years old now. So um, for me,
Because it was a girl.
it was a girl.
I was far along enough to we found
Yeah,
out
it
what the
was a
sex was,
girl.
so it was a
So
girl.
so for me, sometimes, that even that thought of just thinking about, like, what would life be like now, having another girl around. How would life be different? What different choices would I have made? You know what I'm saying? Just in life, now that you have 3 kids, because 3 kids is definitely different from having two
Mm-hmm.
kids, and having 2 girls is definitely different from having 1 girl. And so just little things like that, like what would be different around here? How would Janai be, having a little sister? How would Jameer be having 2 little sisters? Just little stuff like that. But all in all, I really try to, even to this day, I try to keep it in the back of my mind and not really think about it as much. And even sometimes my wife be talking about it and having conversations about it and stuff like that. For me, I'd be like, man, that's why I give her real short answers
Right.
when she brings it up. I don't really dwell on it. It's real short for me, because I just, some things I don't want to think about stuff that I can't fix. Um,
So
you know what
let's
I
let's
mean?
talk about that part. So clearly we dealt with it in two different ways.
Hmm.
And I think that even to the extent where we almost um tried to hide how we were dealing with it from each other. So for me, I went through a range of emotions, right? First I was like, feeling just horrible. Then I started to try to convince myself that this was for the best, right? We're just financially, we're not in a position for a third child, right? Everything that you thought was a blessing, you start to now say, "Oh no, that was a curse," right? That this is how I grieved. So it became, we don't even have the space for a third child. And you know what? God knew better, because we couldn't afford to have a third child. And you start to try to convince yourself that this was the best thing for you, right? Then it went to when I had to start like leaving the house and going in public, right? I would go to the grocery store, different places, and I would see people in there be like, "Oh, how's the baby? You had the baby. And I'd be sitting there like a deer caught in headlights because I didn't know how to respond. Or I would see people and I would run the other way because I didn't want to have to answer any questions. I was so embarrassed. I literally felt like people could look at me and there was a sign on my forehead that said, she just had an abortion. Like, that's how I felt. I felt like it was that obvious to everybody, whether you knew me or not. Um, then we, of course, had to go to church. And of course, the church people didn't really know how to react. What do you say? Do you say I'm sorry? Do you say my condolences? Do you ask how are you? Like, no one really knew like what to say. So it was just a little uncomfortable because it was uncomfortable. And every time someone would begin to say something like, I'm so sorry, or I've been there, or whatever, I would just break down in tears. And it was just tough. So then I started feeling, the next stage of grief for me was feeling like I was just totally less of a woman. Like, I felt like, you know what good am I to my husband now? I can't even reproduce. I can't even, be fruitful and multiply. Like, this man, loves kids. He wanted to have a house full of kids, and now I can't even give him any more kids. I'm so useless, right? I started feeling like that a lot. And so I feel like I went through a little bit of depression. I didn't talk about it because I felt like I couldn't, because he was just, like he said, it never happened. So I felt like I was in this by myself. Like, I was experiencing these feelings by myself. I was having a hard time by myself. Sana, you're acting like a child. You need to put your grown woman panties on and push forward. And this ain't, you're not the first person this happened to. You won't be the last. Like, those are the things that I was trying to tell myself to just push through it. But I was struggling big time. And
I think that's an area where, um, now that I think about, and I hear conversations from her and stuff like that, and me being a little older now, um, I should have handled it a whole lot differently. And being the man and being her husband, um, I really should have, because it's really not a situation for us to feel ashamed. And the reason why I say that is because that wasn't a decision that we wanted to make. That wasn't like a decision where we just, how people get pregnant and be like, we don't, we ain't keeping this baby. Let's go have an abortion. That wasn't one of those situations. And so, being that it was a medical termination, and even though we can look at it as it still being an abortion, it was a decision that was that had to be made, because at the end of the day, from what the doctors was telling us, one of them will not survive. So when it comes down to situations like that, and we have to choose someone, and we chose the baby, I don't feel like it was something that we needed to be ashamed of. Definitely something that we could definitely you know um, go through a time of grieving, as if you lost someone. Um, but I don't feel like it was something that we should have been ashamed of, where it was to the point where we felt like we did something that was so bad that God wouldn't forgive us. Because again, it was a medical termination. And so, because of that, what I should have done was I should have told the church exactly what happened. And I say that because had I been upfront when this first happened, then I feel like it would have got dealt with a whole lot differently. So now my wife doesn't have to try to figure out what she's gonna tell people. When people see her, they're not asking those questions that she really don't know how to answer, because she don't want to just come out and say, she had a medical termination. And so I feel like had I dealt with that differently to the people, and just letting them know, listen, this is what it was. Um, we was getting ready to have another baby. The pregnancy went bad, and we had to make a medical decision to either terminate the baby or terminate my wife. And so we chose to terminate the baby. And I just feel like had we been up front in the beginning, um, then I would have been able to um, be there more for her in a way where it wasn't like we was trying to hide what happened. Um, and it would have made me possibly open up a little more during the situation and not kind of holding back in as much as I did. Because, like I said, the way I dealt with stuff is result. It happened. It happened. Let's move on. But I definitely should have been there more verbally with my wife, talking about it, letting her know that she wasn't in it by herself. Um, she wasn't alone, and stuff like that. So I definitely could have did a better job at that. But like I said, I try to just keep it in the back of my mind. So even when she would talk about it, I wouldn't feed into it. I wouldn't give her too much of my input. And so from that could make a wife be like, "Oh my God, well, I'm trying to talk about it and he ain't saying nothing." So
Right,
so
right.
so now, for her, she probably found herself not mentioning it as much to me because it seems like I don't care. You
That's
know what I
exactly
mean? It
what I
seems
did.
like he's not with this. I mean, with me during this, and I'm fighting this thing by myself. But that really wasn't it. I just um, Sana is a talker. Everybody knows that, and Sana will talk about stuff and
But when this happened 9 years ago, I wasn't the unashamed Sana that you guys know today. I've always been vocal. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll cuss you out quick. So
no, she no
I'll
she's
cuss you out.
no she talking about back in the day, not now.
Like
She won't
not
cuss you
now.
out
I won't
now.
cuss you out now.
Yeah, make that clear because we don't
Um
want folk thinking that you cussing folk
unless
out.
you coming from my husband or my
And
kids,
she's still
then
not she's still not gonna cuss you
sometimes
out.
I
You know what I'm
might,
saying?
no. So back then I wasn't the unashamed Sana that y'all know today. So I I internalized everything that I was feeling, right? I see a question over here. Tamika asked, "Do you think that the church couldn't handle the truth?"
Actually, and I'm gonna be honest, and this is just my personal opinion because I grew up in that church. I've been at that church since I was 8 years old, and so this happened when I was 30. 39 now. Yep, this happened when I was 30 years old, and the church, I really think had we told the church exactly what happened and what was going on, I think the church would have been there for us. And I believe the church would have prayed for us and lifted us up in prayer. Just like any other church, you got folk who going to talk about it and they gonna do that. But I believe the majority of the people would have prayed for us and lifted us up in prayer. Yes, I do believe that.
I believe that too. I believe that the problem is, and I'm not just talking about our church, I'm just talking about the church as a body. I think that we have because of our position where we choose life. If you're a Christian, you should be choosing life. But I think that we also don't extend grace. So when people are, going through these things, and abortion is not anything new, right? A lot of people back in the day, there's a lot of people who have had abortions. But because we've made it such an issue to talk about, because we have shamed women for, first off, getting pregnant in out of wedlock, or being molested or sexually abused and getting pregnant, and then you end up having an abortion, and people still look at you like you're crazy, right? They're not extending grace, they're not showing love. And so the culture that we as the church have created has place women in boxes where you feel like if you get an abortion, you better not let nobody find out, you better not tell it, you better shut your mouth and deal with this thing, and you're gonna, all that. And that's the problem. We don't extend grace. We don't do it. We extend grace for a multitude of other sins, but we don't extend grace for abortion. We don't. And I'm not saying that we should condone it either, but I'm saying that um the women who have endured this, who have made that decision, deserve the same love and forgiveness that our Father died on the cross to extend and give to all of us, right? So I want to say that I uh I ended up carrying that, I carried it. And so eventually my pain and my the fact that I was not healed turned into jealousy. And the way it showed was, I remember my brother-in-law and sister-in-law ended up, first they had their first baby, they had their first son, and I was in that, at that point I could not even look at the baby. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't be happy for her. I could not. I remember the night she had the baby, we went to the hospital. Remember when and I had to leave, right? I couldn't even, like, I think we walked in and I had to walk out. And I think that my family thought it was jealousy, which it was. I was jealous that she was able to have a baby and I couldn't do that. I could not have another child, because what happened was, after we ended up having that termination, our doctor was like, y'all can't keep, this is really bad. My blood levels was like a 2. Like, it was bad. I had lost so much blood. It was horrible. And so we had to make the decision to get my tubes tied. So now we're in a place, and I know there's women who have gotten pregnant with their tubes tied, but yeah, babe, I've heard that before. But I knew that wasn't going to be our situation. And so for me, I felt like I was barren. Like, I was like, it was horrible. And so when she got pregnant, I was super jealous. Like, oh my gosh, she's having a baby, all of that. I could not be happy for her. And I wasn't. The whole pregnancy, I wasn't happy. I just could not. I couldn't hold the baby. I couldn't anything. And I don't think that my family, including Josh, I don't think that they really understood.
I understood
where I was coming from. So he's saying he understood it, but it wasn't communicated. So I felt like I was like the black sheep. Like, I was,
because even that day, because remember, I stayed in the room for a little bit after you left, and I had to let them know, like, yo, this is still tough for my wife to have to deal with, after what we just went through, and the fact that we're never going to be able to have kids again. So this was tough. So and I let my brother know, because I didn't want the way it looked. It looked it real bad. And so I knew that, and I felt it. And so I had to let everybody know she's not just doing that out of that type of jealousy. Like, if I'm saying it right, there's like, it was a different kind of jealousy. It was like a jealousy of, not like, I'm not happy for you because you're having kids and you're having a family, but the fact that I'm not able to do this anymore. I'm not able to bear fruit. I'm not able to have any more kids and be able to provide kids for my husband like he wants. That type of jealousy. And so when she, her being able to have kids still was like you walking in and you looking at this newborn, and that whole feeling comes across you, like, I'm never going to be able to do this again,
right.
Type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So trust me, I know, and I'm not a great communicator. I admit that. So a lot of things I know, and I feel, and sometimes I just don't say nothing, because it was bad, and our communication was terrible. So
it was bad. So she ended up having a baby. That was just, for me, it was bad. It was just like, I couldn't even, like, deal. Like I just couldn't deal. And it caused a strained relationship between she and I, me and my now new sister-in-law. I think between me and my mother-in-law, it got strained because she was kind of like in the middle now between these two daughter-in-laws. You know, one is bringing new life and you want to be happy and supportive and all that stuff, and then you got the other one who it appears is just this jealous evil daughter-in-law. And it was tough for the family. It was really tough, and I kind of began to isolate myself because I just was like, I don't want to be around anybody. I don't want to be bothered. I began to isolate myself. So a few years go by, and now I'm starting to feel like we're hitting 2014. 2014 is a huge year for me because that's the year that God began this healing journey in me. And so we're in 2014 and we have a youth Sunday at our church, and we usually bring in a guest speaker or somebody for youth Sunday. This particular Sunday, we had a speaker. Her name was Christina Bennett, and she came. She worked at the time, she was working at ABC uh, Women's Center in here in Middletown, which is a pregnancy center that helps women to make a better choice other than abortion, and they help to support you through that decision. And so she came to speak, and she shared her story of being her mother was actually on the table to have an abortion, to abort her, and someone ended up showing up and telling her basically you don't have to do this. And so her mother ended up running out of the clinic, and she didn't go through with the abortion. So she told me, she got up there, she shared the story. Probably about a week later, I was like, I'm just going to go by the pregnancy center because I want to see like what they do there. So I went to the pregnancy center with every intention of just kind of going there, visiting. In my mind, I'm healed from this, right? Because we don't talk about it. Like we don't talk about it. So I'm all right. I done learned to put on my brave face and whatever and play the role. And I went on with life. So I go as a healed woman to the pregnancy center. Christina and I sat down, and she started asking me like, what brought me there, and have I ever had an abortion or whatever. And I began to share with her the story, and I broke down in tears, and she was like, you're not healed. And I was like, offended. Yes, I am healed. I'm healed. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And but that stayed in the back of my mind, like, you are not healed. You're not healed. And at this point, God I had a come to Jesus moment. And he said, the first problem is you're still walking around here talking about miscarriage, and you didn't have a miscarriage. You first need to come honest with what you had. You had an abortion. I have forgiven you, but that is what you had. And so I had to like sit in that truth. And that was the first thing for me. That was the first step in me beginning to heal, was like, let me be honest with this thing for myself, right? Let me be honest about my truth, because folks was out here praying for me about a miscarriage, but I had an abortion, and that's a total different level of shame, guilt, grief, pain. It's just different. And so it wasn't the same. So I began to be honest and start to really ask God to take away these feelings, because I would come around my sister-in-law and I just didn't want to be around her baby, right? And I didn't want to feel like that anymore. Like the baby was now like 2, and I was tired of feeling like that. And so I was like, God, I just want you to take this away from me. I'm tired of carrying this load. I'm tired of this burden. I need you to take it away. Like I want to be normal, because I felt like I wasn't normal. I want to be normal. And so I went through that with God. And then finally, I'm at work one day, and my sister-in-law calls me, and she's like, guess what? And I'm like, what? You pregnant? Now, every time, everybody would tell you, anytime she would call me or send me a text, I had started saying, if she was like, guess what? Or I got something to tell you, I would be like, what, you pregnant? Now, that for me was a coping mechanism, because I was almost trying to prepare myself in case she said, yeah, I am. right? Because I knew that I was just jealous of her with this first baby. So I'm like, if I put it out there first, hi, girl, you pregnant? It was a way for me to cope, right? It might sound crazy to y'all, but it was a coping mechanism for me. Little did I know this particular call. Hey, I tell you something. Guess what? What? You pregnant? She was like, yup. I felt my heart drop. I felt my heart drop. Like I knew I wasn't healed because those feelings of jealousy rushed back. Like it rushed back immediately. And she was excited. She was like, but there's more. And I'm like, oh, there's more, trying to act like I'm excited. Oh, there's more. Yeah, I'm having twins. What? Right? So I'm like, God, really? Now it's two more babies? Like, what are you doing to me? Like, this is the conversation I'm having with God. Are you serious? This is a joke. Whatever, whatever. And she was like, but I really want you to help me to tell the family. Like, let's come up with this great plan and tell the family. And I'm like sitting here like, what is going on? Like, but I'm pretending still. Yeah, let's okay, great. I'll come up with a plan. I'm because in our family, I'm like I'm the go-to, right? You go to me, I can put together, bring everybody together. I'm a coordinator type of person. That's my role. So I was trying to step into my role, forcing myself in this role, even though deep down inside I was like, like losing my mind, like, right? Came home to tell Josh, oh, they're having twins and all this stuff. And Josh is like, oh, for real? He's excited. What? My brother's about to have twins. And I'm looking at him like, seriously, dude? Like, you don't see me? You don't see me, right? I was hurting. So we put this whole little plan together. How she gonna reveal it to the in-laws, to my in-laws, and all that stuff. And the day comes, and we do it. And everybody's like, what? Oh my God, twins! Everybody's excited. It's like the whole family, the kid, everybody's excited, and I'm like, yeah, woo, yes, like this is. So I remember Josh was like, I gotta run to the store because we was having family dinner. I gotta go get some juice or something. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go with you. We get in the car, and we closed the door, and I looked at him and I just screamed, aren't you upset? Aren't you angry? Aren't you mad? And he was like, mad about what? That we can't have kids. I feel like I just lost my mind. And he was like, I was like, you don't talk about it. You don't say nothing. You act like it never happened. Like, I'm over here crying. I'm dying inside. And look, like, I just went in. And the way he looking right now is the way he was looking in that car. Like, what? You need to get your life together. So he goes, well, yeah, I mean, I think about the baby sometimes. Yeah, I'm hurt, I'm sad, but gotta move forward. Gotta keep going. It is what it is, and we got a good family, got our two kids, and it is what it is. And I was just like, is he crazy? Like I again felt like I'm in this by myself. Like he don't even care about our little baby that we look like. I can't believe this. So I, of course, went back to God. Like, I thought you were going to heal me. Like, I thought you were going to take this away. I asked you to take this away, and this is what you do to me. And God spoke to me so clear. I'll never forget it. He literally said, the way you're going to heal is you're going to face it head on. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? And he said, you're going to give them a baby shower. And I was like, I'm not giving them no baby shower. Like, no. I don't even know if I went to the first baby shower. I don't even remember. And I was like, I'm not giving them a baby shower. Like, no way. And God said, not only will you give them a baby shower, but you're going to give it to them as if it was yours. The same way you would want someone to give you a baby shower, you're going to do the whole thing. And I came home and I said, Josh, God said I have to give them a baby shower. And Josh was like, Okay. I think for him, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for him, he was like, yes, she's over it. Like, give them a baby shower. She's finally over it. We're done. We can move on. Is that kind of.
Not totally, but yeah, like I felt like you needed to do something, and I felt like you doing a baby shower and being able to give them this baby shower would cause you to start to see things in a different light. That's what I thought, and I don't know if it worked, but I was hoping that that would, because like I said, for me, and she tell you even when she was screaming, I'm like, yo, it's not that serious, man.
That's exactly what he was
You know what I'm
saying.
saying? Like,
It's not that serious.
it's not that serious because for me, it's like, yeah, yeah, I don't want to hold on to stuff that I really can't fix or change. You know what I'm saying? And as much as I wanted to have this baby, and 9 years later, there's nothing, like nothing that I can do or she can do that would bring that baby back. Absolutely nothing. So for me, it's like, I'm not gonna keep, not saying it's almost like a loved one. Like you're always gonna have that pain, or you're gonna, when you think about it, you're gonna have, you're gonna think about all the things that they could have been, like what would they have been like, their personality, and how would they have changed your life and stuff like that. But I don't want to get to the point where I'm like walking around here miserable, and like it's affecting me because
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing I can do about it. So I gotta move on. I gotta push forward, and keep on living life, and not have that like in the front of my mind every time I'm thinking about something. I'm thinking about the baby. I drive myself freaking crazy.
Right.
So I'm like, yo, like so that's how for me, like I deal with, that's how I dealt with stuff. But for her, it was like, it was so much. And when she would bring it to me, sometimes I'd just be like, yo, like, is it really that serious?
Yep. That's exactly how you.
But for some people, it really is.
It really
It
is.
really
Like
is.
like it's real
You know what I mean?
feelings.
It really is. And so I'm not expecting everybody to be like me. I wasn't even expecting my wife to be like me. I just, for me, um, and like I said, I still, but even, and I think about stuff different now, but even then, even though it wasn't that serious for me, I could have still been more supportive for my wife because it was that serious for her. But I wasn't like, back then I wasn't thinking about it like that. I'm like, yo, like I don't, leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of, and I felt like maybe had I supported her a little more, and helped her, then she could have healed a little quicker had I stepped in, you know what I'm saying, and showed her that, I am here for you, not in this thing by yourself.
Well, I want to free you of that right now because um the word that God has been giving me a lot recently is premature. He's been talking to me about premature things, that decisions that I've made, decisions that people make, that are that cause a premature lifestyle, right? Or premature consequences because you did something, or something happened and it wasn't in the right timing. So I believe that I needed you not to support me in that way during that time as I look back, because the process, the healing process that God had to put me through, and the way sometimes when people call me or they talk to me about different stuff and they're like, you just think different. A lot of that is because the way that the Lord dealt with me in my healing journey. And so it had to happen that way. I had to feel every single bit of pain because I believe that there are women who are attached to me that feel or have felt or will feel that same pain, and I need to be able to relate. I need to be able to say, oh sis, I remembered, and I can give a name to it now. Where a lot of women are dealing with pain and they're afraid to give a name to what it is, right? I can give a name to what it is because I've been there. And so I am learning to and I tell people, stop making premature decisions, because there's a process that God wants us to go through, and there's a reason that we have to go through that process. And when you start to do things prematurely, it messes up your process, and you don't realize the lives that are connected to you that you're affecting, because you wanted to go further faster than what God had designed for you. And it can alter generations of people if we don't go through our healing process the way God intended it to happen. So I just want to free you of that, because that's not something that I hold against you.
No, not even that you hold it against me, but I don't care. Listen, how you heal and how God deals with you, that's how God deals with you. But that's not that's never going to that should never hinder the support
Right.
that I give you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I gotta learn how to, when my wife is going through something, no matter what it is, no matter even if I'm at the place where I'm like, yo, it's not that serious, yo, I still have to support you
Right.
in what you're going through. That's not saying that your healing is still gonna come the same way that God intends for it to come. But when it comes from me, as far as supporting, I gotta make sure that I do a better job at, even though things are not that serious to me, it doesn't mean that it's not that serious to you. And if it is that serious for you, then I gotta support you, do it.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. So anyway, we ended up doing the baby shower. It was a beautiful baby shower. We're about to be done.
Okay. I'm just asking this.
I know. So we're about to be done. But anyway, it was a beautiful baby shower. But and after that baby shower, I think that's when I finally got my healing. Like I finally was able to walk in my healing, and she had those babies, and I love those babies. Mm-hmm. They a little special.
Ooh.
But I love them. And I look at them and I'm like, thank you, Jesus, that's not our life, because we don't have the patience for that. And but it took a while, and I had to really sit in the pain. And so I wanted to have this conversation today because, like I said, when I posted it, Josh never talked about it. Like, I'm not exaggerating to y'all. Like, if I never brought it up another day, he would never bring it up another day. But I also wanted to get to a place where we can honor the life of our baby, because it was a life. We heard the heartbeat, we saw the ultrasounds, we knew what sex the baby was. Like, it was a life. And so we need to be able to honor that life. And then it now has caused questions from our daughter, because every other week it's, why can't you have another baby? When are you going to have another baby? I want to have another baby, all the time. And I, had to get to the point where I could sit down and have that conversation with her about what happened, because I don't even know if she remembers. She doesn't remember.
She's only 3.
She was only 3, and she don't remember that I was even pregnant before. Like, she doesn't remember that. But I want to be able to have that conversation, and I want us to be able to have that conversation with her. Because I just think it's necessary, and I don't want to feel like we walk around and go through our lives and act like a whole piece of our life just didn't happen, right? Because it has made us who we are. It's part of my unashamed story. So I can't pretend like it didn't happen. And I had to have that conversation with Josh the other day when we talked about doing this show, and me telling him, like, I need you to kind of talk about it. Like, I know what you're saying, you don't want to, but for me, I need you to. And Josh always tells me, like, I force people to have uncomfortable conversations. That's what he says.
That's what she does.
Do y'all think I do that? I don't feel like I do that.
If you know her, that's what she does.
I don't feel like I force people. I feel like people enjoy having uncomfortable conversations with me.
Nobody enjoys having uncomfortable conversations.
They do. You don't have a conversation with me until you're ready for an uncomfortable conversation. You go to other people first. But you
force the conversation.
I don't feel like I do that.
You ask that question to make them be like, that's what you do. But whatever, unashamed. That's what you are.
Whatever. I just.
No, it's fine. Just go ahead.
But so here we are having this conversation, and I had to keep saying, "You all right? You sure you want to talk about it? You sure you're going to talk about it?"
Even after I told her, she still wanted to have the conversation. You see what I'm saying? Perfect example. It wasn't okay. We're not gonna do it because my husband really don't like talking about it. It was not. I really need to have this. That's what she do.
Right.
But it's fine. It's
but I feel like you don't know it yet, but
See?
you really need to have it, right? I do. That's how I feel. That's how I felt. So that's why we were able to have the conversation tonight. And I really just hope that other men are able to hear this conversation. And if you're experiencing that, or you've experienced it with with a significant other, or with someone, that you gained a few tips from Josh. And he said if he could go back and do it differently, he would have supported me. If he could do it differently, he would have talked about it. There's different things that he would have done. And I think that those are tips that all women would love for their significant other to do. We need to be supported, because it's a hard decision. And sometimes I feel like the post abortive process is harder than the actual abortion. Like, what you carry after is harder than what you carried when you made that decision. For some women, they live with it for years and years and years. And there are women who have committed suicide over that decision. There's women who have begun being addicted to drugs and alcohol because of that decision. There are women who are filled with gifts and sitting in homes, or sitting in graves, laying in graves, having never reached their full purpose because of that decision. And so I wanted to be able to, and there are men, because I know of women who made the decision to have an abortion against the will of the father, and then the father has to deal with that decision. You know what I mean? And so it's important to extend grace. I guess that's the biggest lesson that I really wanted to offer, to extend grace, and to be able to look your pain in the face, give it a name, and properly heal. Because God's already forgiven us, but we need to forgive ourselves. And that's where I had to get to a point where I could forgive myself for a decision that was made. And whether we had to make it, we were forced to make it, we chose to make it, whatever, knowing that God has already forgiven me, and I have to forgive myself. Now, I also say I don't condone abortion. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
And I sit on the board now of ABC Pregnancy Center. Ain't that sign? God is so good. Now I'm actually a board member for that same pregnancy that I went to when I thought I was healed. So I want to make that very clear, that I don't condone abortion. But if you are someone who have experienced it or made that decision, I want to be able to help walk you through it. And I also want to say, if you have experienced that and you want to choose to heal, you want to make the choice to heal, if you're a male or a female and you want to make the choice to heal, contact ABC Pregnancy Center. And I'm actually going to be starting a training in the next few weeks where I will be becoming a facilitator for a program that we're offering for post-abortive men and women called Forgiven and Set Free. And so I'll be able to kind of help counsel you and support you through that post-abortive decision. And so
you go right ahead then.
Thanks, babe. When you know better, you do better. But so if you are someone who wants to participate in that, if you feel like you have gone through the abortion process and you're not healed, or you could use some more healing or support walking through it, please reach out to ABC. You can inbox me. I'll send you their information. They're also listed on the resources page of my website. So that you can get the help that you need and get the support that you need. And if you are a woman that right now is pregnant and you are considering abortion, again, call ABC, call me. This organization is around to help you, to provide support, and to let you know you're not alone. You don't have to carry this child alone. We can help support you. They offer all types of resources, from counseling to providing food, formula for the baby, clothing, diapers. So when you guys see me asking for donations for Pampers and stuff like that, it's for the pregnancy center. It's for these moms who have made the decision to choose life and they need that extra bit of support. So if you want to donate to ABC, you can donate to them as well. Go to their website. They have a link if you want to sow a seed into that ministry. It is a 501c3 nonprofit. All of your donations are 100% tax deductible. So definitely reach out and just know that you're not alone. Anything else you want to say, babe?
I got some good hair, boy.
You do have good hair.
Listen, on a serious note, though, not really. Just to the men who may be watching, if there's, not too many men watch Queen Court. Usually it's the wives or something that delivers a message. But if there is any male up here, what was that?
I don't know.
If there is any males up here, just support your wives.
Right.
If they're doing the right thing. I'm not telling you to support nonsense. I would never tell you that. That's your choice. But if your wife is doing the right thing and you know she's doing a good thing out here in the world, and support her. And when things don't seem to be that serious for us men, 9 times out of 10, it is that serious for your wife. And so, even though you kind of, moved on from things and some things that may have happened, you kind of learned how to deal with it. Just make sure that you're there to support your wife while she's going through it, who it may take a little longer to go through or to deal with it.
Right.
So just make sure you're there, to assist her and to help her get through the process of whatever you guys are dealing with. And I think that's really it for me.
And April is the month of April is actually abortion awareness month, abortion recovery awareness month. So that's why it was really important for me to do a lot of focus on abortion. You didn't know that, huh?
No, I know that, but you pay attention to everything. You're real strategic.
I pay attention to
everything.
What I'm saying?
She's real strategic.
Because I care about us women, and I care about men too, but I just really want to bring some healing. So
yeah, because the women really need it.
And the men do too. Yes.
But we're talking about the women.
We're talking about the men. This is his choice to heal.
Oh, it was?
Mm-hmm. So
the way you were talking, it was like your choice to heal.
I made the choice to heal. So we just wanted to it is Abortion Recovery Awareness Month, the month of April. That's why it was so important for me to do so much focus in Queen's Court Live on abortion recovery this month. So please sow a seed into ABC. They're doing a great work over there, and every amount matters. It can do wonders. And if you have some baby clothes and you are corona free in your house, because if you're corona free and you have some baby clothes from newborn up to size 40 that are gently used clothing that you would like to donate, please let me know. I will come get it for the pregnancy center. They also take nursery items, anything except for car seats and cribs. So if you have toys or high chairs or whatever that you want to donate that is in good condition, we will take it.
They have no clue what you do. So sow a seed to ABC. Yes, ABC. What is it called? ABC Women's Shelter. Women's Center. Sow a seed, and sow a seed to Queen's Court and Unashamed.
Yeah.
She's not gonna say it, but I will. I will.
And Alberta, Minister Alberta just got on me about that today.
Y'all have no clue what she does, and the seeds that you guys sow, it doesn't go to her. No. It goes to all of the things that she does to try to make sure that the things for you ladies, single mothers, and just you women, period, so much that she puts into it. So a seed to Queen's Court, Unashamed. I don't know how to do that, but y'all know how to do all that with the Cash App and all that.
Thank you, babe.
You know what I mean?
Thank you for your support.
That's what I do.
It's never too late.
That's what I do. This is what I do. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So this is the end of our show. Cottons are signing off. Thank you for hanging in there with us and going on our roller coaster ride of a story. And we pray that you were blessed by our story and our transparency, and that you would have a great evening.
Yeah, hit me up. You know what I'm saying? If y'all ever need me to do another live or something, Whatever. Y'all need me to talk about something. You know what I'm saying? Hit me up. Maybe we'll start like a King's Court or something.
That's a good plug. You know really quickly. Our June show of Queen's Court Live is dedicated to the men. See? So the men will be taking over. It will be called King's Court Live. And we have a good lineup of men. I'm not going to tell y'all who they are yet, but we have a good lineup of men that are going to be talking about everything from being fathers to child support to being husbands and leading and all of that good stuff. So y'all want to make sure that you log in June and catch the King's Court Live that they will be doing. Dads Matter Too. That's what it's called.
Let's go. Why? Because it's what? Father's Day month.
Because it's Father's Day month. He know that one.
See?
All right. So we thank you. Check out our old shows on our Queen's Court Live page and our YouTube channel, y'all. We finally got our YouTube channel. So make sure y'all check past episodes and keep us in prayer. We love you. And so, Father, I just want to thank you for this time. I want to thank you for allowing us to be able to speak to your people, God. Yes. I pray, God, that healing will come forward, God. I pray, God, that those women and those men that are suffering in silence right now, God, that they will get the courage to be able to speak, to open their mouths, God, and be able to live in their truth, God, but most of all, be able to go before you transparently, naked and unashamed, Father. I pray, God, that you will just give healing to your people, God. I pray, God, that you will give boldness to your people, God. I pray, God, that you would bless them with everything that they need, any resource, any provision, anything that they need, Father God. I pray, God, that you would meet the need, God. I pray right now, Father God, that you will be a father to the fatherless, a mother to the motherless, God. I pray, God, that if there's any woman who is suffering or having anxiety about a decision that they've made or a decision that they are facing, God, that you would be right there, that you would comfort them, God, that you would give them peace in their mind, God. And I just thank you, God, for this platform, for this opportunity for us to be transparent, God. And I thank you, Father, for my husband, for my king, for my covering. God, I thank you for his life on today, God. I thank you for everything that he is, God. And I pray, God, that you will continue to pour out unto him, God, that he may continue to pour out unto me. God, I just thank you. In Jesus' name, we do pray. Amen. Signing off. We love you guys. Good night. This is Josh's good hair.
Yo, and
this is my hair. Keisha told me that she thought this was a weave ponytail, y'all. This is my hair. I am not wearing no throwback 1990 weave ponytail. I just had to throw that in there. Yes, babe. This is my hair that I don't know what to do with because I don't know how to do hair, and we in the midst of coronavirus quarantine.
Look at me. You know what I'm saying?
But you still look good. Give me a kiss. Love you. All right. Bye, guys.